here are the lots, the way they were configured and approved in the preliminary subdivision. And if you remember correctly, when I said they were constructed as part of Meriwether Phase 2, were these 4 lots right here. And so they're not subject to this plat approval this evening. The proposed plat is consistent with the preliminary plat approval. Improvements are in process of being constructed, and where they're not already completed, they have been bonded for. We have a recorded bonding mechanism, and we also have recorded CC&Rs for the subdivision. It's consistent with the mitigating determination non-significance through CPA, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the final plat to your City Council. With that, if you have any questions for me, I'm available to answer them to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this?
Madam Chair, I move that we move this on our recommendation to City Council.
Okay. So we have a motion to move the Phase 1B final plat to City Council. Do I have a second?
Yes, I second that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Everything's all in order, right? Tell them what we asked.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the rules of procedure.
You want to stab a look at that?
So there was a discussion. I'm not privy to that discussion. I wasn't here. I asked Pete, the city administrator, to give me the most recent version of the procedures that you guys have been discussing. So I do have them available on Word here. So if you wanted to move through this and do some wordsmithing for your procedures, or however you wanted to move forward, I think that at this point staff's just here to support you. And I'll let you guys discuss it amongst yourselves.
Okay. So,
Does this have, yeah, it has Shane's.
yeah, this is what the last time we met, the consensus was that I should go through this and try and wordsmith it a bit. So, which is what I've done. There's, things that have been crossed off. There are things that are in yellow that we need to decide on. To me, the easiest thing is to, start at the beginning and just kind of go through this and see if there's anybody if anybody has any concerns, anything different they want to add, change, whatever. So, starting with, I don't assume there's any problem about the name, Article 1. Article 2 on meetings. Any concern about the location?
No. No, I'm not.
Any concern about the date and time?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Mhm.
I think that we should put language in here that says that, I don't know if this goes under location or date and time, but all meetings shall be open to the public 1/2 hour prior to the scheduled start of the meeting.
And the reason for that would be?
So commissioners and the audience can get in, get prepared, get settled and prepared to start the meeting precisely at 7 o'clock. We have had issues in the past where staff showed up at 6:45, and that does not give people enough time to get settled. So I would really like...
So you're asking that all of us, staff and commissioners, would be here at 6:30?
No, I'm saying the building needs to be open so that people can come. It should be available for commissioners, the audience, and others
So Connie, you just mean the facility should be here, and the sign-up sheet, and the information? So that the
Everything should be
public-
here.
So that the public has an opportunity to review the information.
Prior to the start of the meeting. And with city council, I have spoken to the mayor about this, and, their meetings, this building is open half an hour before their meetings for that very same reason, and I would like to see us carry that forward at our meetings.
Is that in their rules of procedure? In the city council's rules of procedure?
I have no idea. We're talking about our rules of procedure, so I don't...
Right, but we're just saying-
You did just mention city council.
Does it have to be codified, or is this just, is this something we actually need to put in here and make it a hard and fast rule, or is this... So I'm not sure how the staff would view this.
I'll defer to the, I'm not permanent.
You're not permanent, yeah, so that's the thing, we don't...
I think we always strive to set up early. They came over today at 4 to set up and make sure everything was running properly. So I don't think that there's an objection on staff's behalf to be here a half an hour early to set up.
Perhaps it's a good time for public comment.
Well, if there's going to be public comment, then does that mean that the commissioners all need to be here too?
You deferred public
She meant right.
comment
She meant
to
right.
during discussion.
Yeah, that
So
was
perhaps
just-
this is the time that the public adds what they feel is adequate.
Oh, you mean discussing about this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
About this issue?
I just, I've only
Okay.
been here 2 times, the building wasn't open, it wasn't ready. So it was, last time there was a
Well-
line, we couldn't start on time.
And we will have a different planner, and, I don't know how that person will view it either.
Yeah, I'm quite honestly, I'm telling you that I don't think the city would have a problem making sure that the building was open at 6:30 on the nights of your meeting. And that's certainly a request we can make of the administrator, the city administrator.
Mhm.
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't have been ready.
So, is that regardless of whether it's mentioned in our rules of procedure?
I think it seems like a good idea.
I think it's a good idea if you want public comment. I don't see why there's any reason why. She's not asking that you all have to be here, but it does give you an opportunity to get here and get things set up, and for us that don't see these things or get here very often. Like you said, sometimes there's a line, and I'm always one that gets places early rather than wait for everybody else to get ready, so I don't see a problem with it.
No, I'm just wondering if this needs to be, stated in our procedures or not.
I don't see why not. We are the planning commission, and if your concern is about staff, staff is here to support
Oh,
the
yeah,
planning
right.
commission.
I agree. Yeah.
That's just, it doesn't, I'm just not sure it's a rule of our procedure.
Well, I don't think anything's going to pass tonight, so let's put this on for our discussion, and but I want it so noted. It's for the benefit of the public.
Okay, so location open at 6:30. Okay. Any concerns about the section about rescheduling meetings for holidays? Special meetings and workshops. Now, you see I have struck out some of this language. It didn't seem to make sense to me.
I was really surprised that you struck that, because I find one of the problems is that there has not been workshops on a regular basis, and there hasn't been one
Well-
held with city council.
But,
Deemed necessary, but it doesn't mention, the language in there doesn't mention having a meeting with city council.
And other work programs deemed necessary by the planning commission or the city council, and typically, there's always been joint meetings of the planning commission.
well, actually, that hasn't happened in a while.
Which is unfortunate.
And, that's, I don't know whose fault that is. It just hasn't happened in a while. Mr. Perry?
I didn't say where, it's okay, I wanted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was...
I couldn't hear Commissioner Jensen because his speaker was on.
You're not be close enough to the microphone, apparently.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
But you could speak up a little bit, very quiet.
I don't know, this is, I suppose this is not objectionable language, I just thought it wasn't particularly useful.
Well, I do agree with Commissioner Jones on this. I think we, as a planning commission, need to strive to meet more with the city council, strive to have work programs, workshops, really work on our long-range plans, et cetera.
There again, it doesn't mention.
Okay,
any
but
meetings.
but that's not necessarily what this language is about.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about meeting with.
I mean, in a way, that's a joint decision with the city council, and I don't know who's,
Where does it say that we will do it if we don't put it here?
say that we will, but I don't know who's,
In the past, the planning commission has asked for meetings with the planning commission.
with the city
and
council.
It's gone both ways. The planning commission has asked for meetings, and the council has asked for meetings, and
I don't-
they used to occur on a regular basis. They don't.
I've been on the planning
I've-
commission for 10 years, and it's not happened very often.
I think the first time I came to a planning commission meeting here was about 1974. And so for a long period of time, they did happen on a regular basis over the years. There was a joint meeting.
At any rate, the struck-through language doesn't mention any joint meetings.
I agree. If it isn't going to go here, where should it go?
I think it can go here.
Well, Mr. Perry.
When I was on the city council,
Would you,
there was
would
a
you,
time
would you,
when...
would
Hold on.
would you come up to the microphone, please? If we have to be in the microphone, you have to too.
She didn't have to.
Name
But
and
I'd be
ad-
happy to.
Name, et cetera.
Scott Perry, sorry, Scott Perry, 180 South Pekin here in Woodland. And when I was on the city council, there became an issue, and Planning Commission decided not to meet with the city council. And I'll be honest with you, that was not, I didn't believe appropriate at all. I think that what you need is a real good working relationship between the city council and planning. And missing and not showing up for a planned city council meeting or meeting with the city council, I remember I was upset, to use the better word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But, I'm not sure that it's accurate to say the planning commission decided that. I don't really remember how it happened. I don't know that it was necessarily, the planning commission's, it just seemed to be an issue of getting together and agreeing on some time, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, so I've only been on the commission for 4 years now, but since the beginning, it has been, a stated desire of all of us to have meetings with the city council on that.
I agree with him. I can't even hear you here. Could you speak up?
Sure. I've only been on once again, I've only been on the commission for 4 years. But in that time, both the chair and the rest of the commissioners have expressed an interest in meeting with the city council. And so the desire was there on the commission side. And I can't speak for the city council. I don't know what happened on that end, but,
Well, I
Speaking for
guess I'd
myself.
wrap mine up by saying I think any communication that the two of you can have is very productive. Thank you.
Okay, so where are we on whether or not this language should be struck out? Because the issue of meeting with the city council, I think, is not what this is addressing.
Madam Chair, the city council has given us some objectives, and they want us to work on certain issues. And if we don't have workshops,
But this does not preclude having workshops. It says that they shall be held at the discretion of the chairperson. I mean, or, I mean, this
Yeah.
definitely,
The language is still there about.
makes it possible to have workshops.
So so I guess from what I see is that it said that, that it could be developed between the city planning commission or the city council, And so maybe you want to move it over into, it's one of the duties of the chairperson. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. It's crazy.
Oh, sorry. So maybe you want to move it over that if the planning commission decides they would like to have a directional meeting with the city council, that's one of the duties of the chairman to work with the mayor and schedule that, and vice versa. If the city council wants to meet with the planning commission, again, the mayor meets with you or whoever the chairman is and sets up the time and calls the meeting. This looks like it's left solely to the discretion of the chairman. Well, that's what it says. It's left to the chairman's discretion.
Well, it's saying that special meetings and workshops are, it's not saying that,
May be held at the discretion of the
Right.
chairperson. That seems
But it's-
pretty finite.
What do you mean by finite?
I don't see any other authority to the commissioners or to the city council to ask for a special workshop between the two bodies. I see where it's solely the decision of the chairperson of the planning commission. So it seems
But this
closed
is-
captioned.
yeah, but again, I don't see this section as addressing meetings with the city council. I see it as having, sometimes we have an extra workshop on a topic. It's not necessarily a workshop with the city council, it's on a different topic.
I think if you don't want to listen to Connie's and my comments, we can just close it up. I
No,
think we both felt the need for it.
I don't think you're hearing what Sharon's saying, June. I think all of us would like we want meetings with city council. That is not currently addressed in these special meetings and workshops. We can add that language, and I think, I haven't heard any objections to that thus far, but there's nothing about this section that would preclude those meetings.
Well, then where would you see that it is provided for?
I'm
Well,
not saying it is provided for.
It is
I'm
not,
saying
it isn't
perhaps we
particularly.
should add
Okay.
it.
It's not particularly provided for, no. I'm not really sure how far back these procedures date from, to tell you the truth. I think, I doubt that they've been, like I say, I've been on the commission for 10 years, and I doubt that they were changed in that time. I don't remember
they
us
were
changing
changed,
them.
Madam Chair, they were changed in 2008.
Okay.
About 10 years?
Do we have a comment back there?
Andy Loud, 2215 Lewis River Road.
Could you speak a little closer to the mic?
Sure, Andy Loud, 2215 Lewis River Road. I take exception to that the chairman should be, that a meeting should be at the sole discretion of the chairman. This is a committee. The chairman maybe should be used in its appropriate manner as a tiebreaker. But this looks to me like this is engineered so that the chairman could shut down a meeting, so the chairman could deny a meeting with the city council. Now, you just said there's no provisions that, I believe I heard you say there were no provisions in the current document for meeting with the city council. Am I correct there?
There's nothing that addresses it one way or the other.
Do you think, Madam Chairman, it should be addressed?
There's not a problem with putting it in. I think that such meetings could happen without it being
Maybe.
for specific language in here.
Only-
I think it's partly at the discretion of the city council, too, not just the planning commission.
Well, as it's been noted, you can't control the city council, whether they want to meet with you or not. And this document would not be binding on the city council.
No.
This document is for the planning commission. Now,
Yes.
do you think it's appropriate that the planning commission should meet with the city council?
It's fine one way or the other. It's appropriate, but it hasn't happened.
I'm
and-
going to register my complaint as a citizen. It is not fine that it happens one way or the other. This committee is first responsible to the city council, and therefore is responsible to the citizens of this city,
Yes,
okay? Nothing in this document should prohibit,
I don't see anything does it
Nothing does
prohibit it.
prohibit it.
well,
This is,
With all due respect, I think you're attributing some malice that does not exist.
well, that is your opinion, as you just stated, okay?
Did you state that this is
This,
your opinion?
this section is talking about special meetings and workshop outside of regularly scheduled meetings. It is not specifically talking about meeting with the city council. There is no problem that I see with meeting with the city council. It needs to be an agreed-on thing between the city council and the planning commission. It's not up to the planning commission, it's a joint decision.
Madam Chair, I wonder if we could compromise. I mean, if we left the sentence in there, "Workshops shall be held for the development of long-range plans, updating ordinance or other work programs deemed necessary by the planning commission or city council." And to me, I think we could strike that last sentence and achieve what we're looking at.
The last one in that paragraph, or the last one?
Yes, I think we could say no discussion of an application for development shall take place
Well,
at a workshop.
And that's fine, but that still doesn't really address having a meeting with the city council.
It's true.
Would a meeting with the city council be classified as a special meeting?
I don't know.
I believe it would be.
I don't know. We haven't had them in a while.
Well, the question
I think
here is establishing procedures for the future, not what's simply happened during your tenure on this commission.
The last time I remember having any meeting with the city council, it was going in like a half an hour before the city council meeting started and meeting with them then. It wasn't there was one time I remember having a meeting that was like a separate time, not city council time, not planning commission time.
I believe I heard you say you've been on this commission for 8 years. Is that
10 years.
correct?
10 years.
10 years? I also heard Mrs. Jones, who's been coming to these meetings for far longer than that, and that it does happen. Okay, I want to ensure in the future it does happen, and I don't want that door closed.
Well, I think then we need to also get agreement from the city council that it happens. Now, I mean, we can ask for it,
Obviously,
but it's also a decision of the city council, isn't it?
That is up to the city council.
Yes, it's up to the city council whether they want to meet with us or not.
And it is not up to the city council whether you put it in your procedures or not. Is that correct? That's not the city council's decision, is it?
No.
It's
No.
a decision of this body.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm emphasizing the fact that I believe it should be in here. It should be clarified, okay? And it currently isn't. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
So is there a reason you struck it to put that at the chairman's discretion?
No, I was not thinking at all about a meeting with the city council when I struck this. I was just thinking that this, well, I did this a while ago, to be honest. If you want to put that first sentence back in, I have no objection.
I do think if we want to address meetings with city council, I think that needs new language. Because it doesn't have anything to do with what's
This doesn't, yeah,
here.
it doesn't.
I don't, I don't have any objection with adding that language. I think it would maybe be a good, no, not maybe, it would be a good idea.
But such a meeting would be at the discretion, not just of the
Yeah. Maybe we-
chairperson, but
Sure.
also of the city council.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we could add another subheading that's about, joint meetings. Because special meetings and workshops, that seems to be for, additional meetings that, we need more time to discuss something than we get in our monthly meetings. And I think maybe joint meetings with city council deserves its own heading, because it sounds like it's important to people,
yeah,
and
I
think it's a good idea.
It's something different, yeah.
Yeah, so does anybody have any ideas for language to that effect?
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott?
It seems to me this could be relatively simple. I think it should be at the discretion of the commission. Your planning commission, as he pointed out, you're not one person. And as a matter of fact, on the time that the city council requested a joint meeting, I was told it was the chairperson that made the decision that there wouldn't be one.
When was that, Scott?
Oh, the exact year I don't recall, but
How about an estimate?
probably about 2014,
2014, okay.
roughly.
Well, I would say then that joint meetings with the city council would be at the discretion of the planning commission and the city council. It's a discretion of both
I
groups.
think the point is that whether it's with the city council or any workshop, it should be a decision of the commission. You have multiple people here, and it's not a chairman that is...
I have no problem with that. You know,
Okay,
it's
then
just-
we have a simple solution. Thank you.
I guess, this is the language that was there. I wasn't really thinking about it particularly. Discretion of the commission is fine.
Yeah, you didn't, just to be clear, you didn't add that language, Sharon.
Yeah, I mean, this is what was here.
Okay. So, just so everyone's clear with that, this was the existing
I'm talking about the
language.
language that was struck.
Fantastic. Sharon didn't add at the discretion of the chairperson part. I think, yeah, I don't have any objection to changing that either.
And sometimes I think it's been, at the request of the planner, for instance.
Sure. Can I?
Yes,
weigh
please.
in on this? Just so you know, think about when you're going to need a special meeting or workshop. For example, let's say the voters of the state legalize marijuana. Now the city's going to have to realize how to deal with it. And there's a certain period of time that you want to get some laws in place before it comes to your city. That's when you would do a special meeting or something. And I generally think that the city will ask, hey, can we do a special meeting? But there are times when the planning commission will be like, hey, I don't like the size of accessory dwellings in LDR 6 zones. I had a neighbor complain about the size that a house could be in an LDR 6 zone, and I want to meet about that. It should be the group as a whole saying, yeah, let's meet and talk about that, or let's not meet and talk about that, but as a group, you should decide, make that decision. Remember one thing, you serve at the pleasure of the city council, right? You serve at their pleasure. If they have time to work you into their agenda, they're going to put you on their agenda. And if you choose not to attend that meeting, you choose not to attend that meeting. But, I think if one of your aspirations is to meet with the city council in a joint work session, regardless of the subject matter, you would want to be there. And then try and spin it to something that might help you get some direction if you're seeking out other matters with them. So use that opportunity. But I would just say that I feel like you guys are getting buried in the verbiage here, and I think you just need to work together. I think what I've heard so far is we just say, may be held at the discretion of the commission, period, and then put in your, the next sentence, leave it in there, and then just strike the last sentence. And that would...
Should we say at the discretion of the planning commission and/or?
I would just say the
City.
commission, because you can't
Okay.
meet without somebody asking you.
Okay.
Can can we add some language? I would like to add some language that's specific to joint meetings, because I don't see that.
I think
It's in here.
that's fair.
Okay.
And you can say special meetings and workshops, and then have another underlined section
Okay.
that speaks to joint meetings, and you can say that the planning commission aspires to meet with the city council on land use matters, long-range planning matters, and we aspire to do that at least once or twice a year, or however you wish.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do too.
When we did meet, it was something like, what do you see the issues that we should work on next year? I mean, it was kind of like that, sort of.
I think that that's commonly what I've seen in I have 20 years of experience, both municipal and private, and what I commonly see is the city council and planning commission will get together to either focus the direction on a specific issue, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, something like that, or to just talk in general what we used to call the SWOT analysis. We did a SWOT analysis that looked at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and what's that? Assets.
Threats.
Threats. Yeah, assets. I mean, threats is, I always thought that was a bad word for it. So it was an opportunity to sit down and kind of redirect your focus in a way that the Kiss City Council wanted to move, but to have an open discussion with them.
Right.
I really liked Brad's synopsis and putting it further on what Tel suggested of aspiring to have at least one, possibly more per year.
I also agree with that, I concur.
And I agree with Scott. I can remember making an effort to go to a special meeting that was called by the city council, and no one from the planning commission showed up.
And when was that?
I would say it's approximately 3 years ago. There was another one about 5 years ago, and
I don't remember 3
there
years
was
ago
one
there
on the
being a...
downtown revitalization ordinance, and the planning commission stiffed the city council on it.
When was that?
Were we expected to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Did somebody tell us, though?
I don't think you were on the planning commission. I don't think Tel was on the planning commission. I think you were, I think Mike, I can't think of his last name. I think Mr., yeah, I'm trying to think who all. I think Dave was still on the planning commission, and the city council was there, and the planner was there, and there were a number of people from the downtown area that were affected by the draft ordinance, and no one from the
The
planning
draft
commission.
ordinance for...
The downtown revision to the codes, and it was the revitalization effort, and no one from the planning commission showed up for the special meeting. And it was held on a Thursday, or it was held on a Wednesday night, because that was the night that the planning commission normally met, and then no one, and the city council showed up, and many people who lived in the west side showed up, and there was no one from the planning commission.
Was this last year?
No, it was probably,
Because I remember when
I think you
nobody
probably
said
showed
I
up.
was here.
Yeah, you
For
probably
when I
came
was
from the
in-
planning, you weren't on
Yeah.
the planning commission, but you were a
I was
citizen.
in the planning commission.
Yeah. This was prior.
At any rate.
Anyway, so,
Moving
yeah,
forward.
I think the aspiring to have them is a good thing. I'd love to see that in there.
Okay, how about the, in the next paragraph, do you want to put back in the part that the paragraph that starts with action? Do you want to put back in what I crossed off?
Shoot, I just want to give it to Brad now and let him do it.
Well, it's our job to do it.
I think that that's an appropriate strike. I think I shared with Sharon, I did have some comments on some of these that I think that's appropriate. I don't think you should be taking any type of action on anything in a workshop.
In a workshop, yeah.
Other
Yep.
than giving direction to staff or something like that. Action should be only taken when you're
Right.
public hearing.
Yeah, that's why it didn't make sense.
Sure, it makes sense to strike that.
So, special meetings and workshops would still be a public undertaking, right?
They're still public, and
Okay.
I'll give you
Yeah.
an example. I'm always going to go back to medical marijuana because that's the most recent thing that I handled. It was a big thing in Oregon last year, And we had workshops with the planning commission. And the planning commission, is the way I would structure those is we'd remove the planning commission off the dais, and they would come down and we'd sit, we had tables set up, and a work session was for the planning commission to just listen to what the public had. We had prompted questions. They would facilitate the discussion at each table, and they would just find direction. And then at the end of that work session, they would, everybody would just present the findings of their table, and that's it. And then from there, the planning commission would start directing staff on legislation that they might want to see moving forward, coming forward.
Cool.
Okay, next section on meeting notices. Postmarked is no longer appropriate.
Seems reasonable.
So what's gonna be the notice?
Well, it does say written notice, which I guess is still emails. So you have like flyers that you put up. There's notice in the paper,
Yeah,
the reflector.
Certain applications do already have codified and required notice, and not only by the code, but by state regulations. So, but in the event of your special meetings and workshops, not necessarily. You might just want to say we want adequate notice to be given. Personally, I think 7 days is not enough for people. I like to give 2 weeks notice on something like that. And if you just think about it, at different times of the year, people are always going to have excuses why they should have more notice. But 7 days seems quite short for a
Okay.
meeting.
I like, yeah.
2 weeks is, yeah, change it to 2 weeks, that's fine.
So is notice city website? What is notice?
So, notice for just a general work session or something like that would be posting the agenda in the locations that we posted, putting it on the city website. You could add, having it, put it in the paper, but just know that that's a cost to the city.
Yeah. Mhm.
And not everybody, I don't know the last time I've ever read a legal notice, and I do it for a living. I only read them before they go to make sure that they're appropriate and right. But I never go back to the legal notice section of the paper. I don't even get the paper anymore in print form. So I do rely on the city's website to know what was going on. And I do oftentimes rely on, when I go to the post office looking at the...
I was going to say, it's always at the post office, yeah.
Can I ask the folks here, how you guys, how do you guys sort of know what's going on? Where do you see the meetings posted?
I think I'm on their email list.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. People who don't have, previous city affiliations, how do you find out? Website?
City website,
Okay.
and if you check,
Post office.
you could probably post them in the chamber's website.
Okay. All right. Small sample, but
I'm just curious, like, if we had to say, well, we gave notice, how would we prove that we gave notice?
Well, remember, a special meeting or something like that, what are they can't challenge you in court on something like that. I mean, it's not like you're making a decision. Again, it's more of a listening thing and a learning tool. Special workshops and meetings are, to kind of fill out the thoughts of the community on where or what direction things are going in. So it's not something, how you do that is you document it. And you say, we had a special meeting on this item this month we did an open house, we did an ice cream social. I mean, so you document that, and you try and be public, and you try and be in where your public's at. And I think that's the best that you can do. We relentlessly chased public participation at the last place I worked, relentlessly. We had the strictest codified notice requirements in the state of Oregon. So we went to everybody within 1,000 feet. And we reached out via Twitter. We had Facebook accounts. We had Instagram accounts. Those were constantly being updated by staff. The city's website. We did everything, and it didn't really matter. I mean, people who want to get involved are going to get involved.
And were all those things codified, or?
No, it's like this document is not necessarily codified, right? It's a procedural document. It's a document that you guys all agree to want to happen, things to happen this way. And it's something that you can all call each other on and hold each other accountable for. Say, hey, we all agree that we're going to do this, so let's make sure we're doing it.
Excuse me, we do have a way of getting notification from the
Yes.
city,
Yes.
which is, I have found helpful as far as the council meetings go, because I always get a notification, I always get a notification when there is a council meeting, and it's really helped me because sometimes I've forgotten.
Sure. And I'm not 100% certain that that's the way it's always been with the planning commission, but I have talked to Lori and the staff, and they are committed to also including the planning commission materials. We recently did that just the other day with this amended agenda and the whole notice that I put out to let y'all know that I made a mistake and that they needed more time to provide some findings. So I think it's a very effective tool, probably one of the most effective tools. But if you know, only the people that get that are the people that sign up for that.
Okay, so in that section, I think we're agreed to change it to
2 weeks?
2 weeks in advance of the meeting date, rather than 1 week. Okay, meeting cancellation, at the discretion of the chairperson or not?
Well, the last two have been canceled by the mayor, right?
True.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Or somebody.
I don't-
Yeah,
There again,
the mayor, I
I
believe, yeah.
don't think the mayor's going to abide by our rules of procedure either.
He's not bound by them, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't object to it not being the chairperson, but I also don't think it's a huge issue. You know,
Yeah.
like whether, if there are no matters, that seems like pretty cut and dry. I don't see it being huge.
Madam Chair, I think there's some merit to having the chairperson notify the planning commission in the event that the city doesn't. For example, on some of these issues that came on these public notices, it would have been nice, I know it would have been great if staff had sent us these notices, but the chair could be responsible for letting the planning commission know that there will not be a meeting.
Okay, that seems,
Well,
I don't know, that seems a little bit like a phone tree kind of scenario where you might as well just leave it up to staff if they're already on the phone.
I can tell you that the problem that you didn't get has been fixed. You've been added to a different list, so the fact that you didn't get it in time this time will not happen again. You've been added to the list that received it electronically in the first place, but it was council and department heads and a few other people, but they didn't have the planning commission on that list for some reason, so.
Okay.
You've been added.
okay.
Well, under this, there would never be a time that the chairperson could cancel a meeting if no matters over which the planning commission has jurisdiction are pending. There's never a time.
Hey, be a little optimistic. Maybe we'll just finish it all one day.
No,
Maybe it'll all done.
be the minutes
And
from the
this is-
prior meeting that were pending approval. There would never be a time you could cancel.
And this is may be canceled, you know, it's not, it's.
I'm just saying it's specious.
Well, that hit me too. I was thinking, what
It's-
circumstances would there be a
Yeah,
canceled meeting?
I'm
That's true,
not
it
sure
doesn't
that I
seem-
remember any time that there hasn't been something.
I don't think it would be worthwhile to have a meeting just to approve minutes, but that's a good, you bring a good point about, sort of other reasons to cancel a meeting, safety, mostly safety.
So
I
are
don't know
we,
that we need to have that in.
are we saying we don't need this section at all?
I don't know.
I mean, is there any harm in just leaving it and,
Again, I wouldn't think you would need it because your agenda's going to be out 2 weeks prior. If the meeting's canceled, it should be on that agenda.
true, okay.
And there should be a reason for the cancellation. It's not like staff's going to just say it's canceled. They're going to talk to you and let you know why.
Yeah.
On their agenda.
So we just strike this whole thing? Meeting cancellation section? Is that the consensus?
I don't know that you don't want to have it like weather-related is valid, or that, lack of a quorum, whatever, but the way it's worded, you could never cancel a meeting.
Right. Well, I guess I would ask the question, you know, like, for example, there was not a planner here to man the meeting. Sometimes staff has to cancel the meeting because there's nobody there to support your meeting. So I don't know that, you know, having this in there, how are you holding yourselves accountable when it's a staff decision to have to cancel a meeting and not yours?
My question on that is, if a commissioner is going to be absent, and don't they notify the chair?
Well, no, what used to happen before we had this turnover of personnel was that the Casey, the clerk? Would call a few days before the meeting and say, and find out if people were going to be there.
That hasn't happened since
No,
I've
no,
joined.
no, it hasn't, but that's what had happened for quite a while.
I got that call this week.
Yeah, it happened this week, right?
Yeah, it did happen.
Happened this week and it happened last night.
Yeah, so,
I've gotten that call before.
so that's how you know whether there's going to be a
I was
quorum
in
or
the
not.
office, so that's when I,
I didn't call you because I already knew you'd be there.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a fairly reliable arrangement. Yeah, I guess by putting this heading in here, meeting cancellation, it seems like, yeah, we do sort of say that's the only reason to cancel a meeting. So maybe taking it out
Is it taking
isn't
out?
a bad
Because-
idea.
Yeah, because
That
there's a
opens
lot
it
of
up a little
other
bit.
reasons why meetings could be canceled rather than,
If we poll you and there's no quorum, there's no reason to have a meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So, yeah.
so
let's
take this
get
whole
rid of it.
section out. Any objections? Okay, organization, first section here is membership. No problems there, I hope?
No, I'd kind of like, I don't know if, I think membership is a place to put it, but I think, I'd like there to be some provision for public notice for applications when there's a vacancy. Just because I sort of thought that would be in there already, and I didn't see it.
It isn't, yeah.
Yes, my questions on membership.
Yeah.
Can you come up to the, can you come up to,
Residents,
can you come up to the?
my voice is pretty loud.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to have your name and address and all
Okay.
that.
Becky Buer, 931 Dale Street. So if you have to have my name and address, I want everybody's address.
Okay.
Okay, June Jones.
315 Island Air Drive, Woodland, Clark County, Washington.
Inside city limits?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Bozell,
1164 Glenwood Street in Woodland,
Woodland residents,
yes.
city, okay. Mrs. Taylor?
My address is 2215 Lewis River Road. I am a resident of the city of Woodland.
Okay. Tell?
773 Hoffman Street, Woodland, Washington.
And you actually live at that residence?
I do.
You do? Okay. Because I heard you lived in Portland.
You, excuse me?
I heard you lived in Portland.
And who did you hear that from?
I couldn't tell you right offhand, but I have heard you live in Portland. So I'm just checking residence if you're checking mine. Miss Watt?
276 Insel Road?
Inside City Woodland?
Oh, yes.
Okay. What is the residency requirements?
Inside the city limits, I believe.
City limits, not outside, just inside city where the signs say City of Woodland residents?
That's what that's what I have always assumed.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because
I
I've heard
think-
that some people are not inside city limits.
I don't know that that's...
I was told when Jana Lovejoy was running for mayor, I think JJ could address this, that there were the City of Woodland residence requirements were 2 years of residency, 1 year of residency, and it was full-time residency, as I recall. Is that what is required of all?
Live in the city for 1 year, they got the same problems going on with Climber right now. 1 year.
So it is actually codified in your municipal code too. So it's in the municipal code. You don't have to repeat it here.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, election of officers. The only issue I had here was, sorry.
Can we,
Oh.
can we add that
to-
membership about, if there's filling a vacancy,
Oh, about,
public notice about the vacancy for applicants?
I think that's a city council function.
Council function.
Do they already do that?
Then they do.
They don't do that.
Yes, it is. It's on the website. All you have to do is go to the planning commission section, and there's applications, and it says if there's a vacancy.
I would kind of like there to be, maybe that is a city council issue.
We can't
But-
appoint ourselves, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, but, we also can't change, could we change, this whole membership section, can we change it to, from 5 members appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council? That's already in city code too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of up to the council.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think, I don't think we can change that.
So, all right, there again, do we need that section at all then?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I think so. I think we do.
If it's already up, if it's not even up to us? If whether we have it or not?
No, but this means that it's here where you can see it and you don't have to go find the code.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, election of officers. My one issue is when they shall be scheduled. It says September, and I'm not sure what month you want to do it at.
Sorry. Just going back to the membership thing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but being a new member after all this time, I've been really surprised at so I know you guys have all signed these rules of procedures. I've never been presented with a copy of them. And the mayor said, oh, this is great, you're going to join. And I said, that's wonderful. I said, could I get a copy of the Woodland Municipal Code and whatever? And there's no oath, and there's no hello, nice to have you, except from the council. The council was great. But the planning commission doesn't seem to have any procedure of here's the resources, here's training that's available to you, Well, I find that kind of odd.
I was given a whole lot of binders when I joined.
Neither was I.
Were you?
I don't know if that's, I'm not sure why that didn't happen.
When I joined, they were in the process of putting all of those things online, and it was just I think it was a cost-saving issue where it didn't make sense to print out the entire Woodland Municipal Code. And I kind of agree with that. They said, if I really wanted one, they could probably make it happen, but maybe the website is a better option. It gets updated regularly, whereas a hard copy, it's a lot harder to update.
I think I'm talking not just about the furnishing the documents. It's
Sure.
Welcome to the Planning Commission. Here's an oath of office. This is,
Well, I assume that you should have been given these procedures to sign because, there's a place for everybody to sign
would
at the
think.
end.
One would
I
think.
I think when you came on, we were kind of in the midst of
a bit-
deciding whether to change some of these things or not, which may be why you didn't get it, because
did you get the, Connie?
I didn't get them for a couple months, and then I had a meeting with the city administrator, and then I got them.
she's talking about these procedures.
I am.
Yeah, all right, okay.
So.
I
you're
just find it
suggesting maybe-
odd when you go on city council or you go on the Civil Service Commission, it's kind of like, these are your duties, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I would say that it's not your job to do that, it's staff's job to do that, so I think that was probably something that staff slipped up on, and I want to make a note of that.
Yeah, and I think it was because we were starting to think about revising these things, and, which is probably no particular good reason, but.
So I did kind of along those lines, I also, when I joined I think I was pointed toward a schedule of, I don't know, it was like planning, like, short courses. Planning short courses that the state of Washington put on.
Yeah.
And that was nice.
Okay.
It would be nice.
We've had a.
There again, that's not,
I've
it's
had
probably
a
not
discussion with Brad.
part of this.
About.
So we're trying, there was one in Battleground, you guys probably didn't attend last night because you probably didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until today. So I'm trying to get one here at the city, the mayor, we discussed it and asked if there's a way to get it here. But I also encourage you, I will provide this information to you. You can go to the website and you can watch videos. They're like 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes on each one of these because land use is ingrained in constitutional law and you need to be really careful about how you do things up here. And so as your city grows, developers are going to become much more complex. You're not going to be dealing with just, people developing their land that aren't going to challenge you on things. So you kind of need to be aware of the laws that go around with that. So I will send that to you this week sometime, or this kind of next week. I'll send you a link to that short course, and I'll keep you abreast of any discussions I have with the coordinator on that and whether or not we can get one here soon. I don't know how soon they do it. They used to only do it, they move across the state quarterly, so it kind of depends on how they run it now. I don't know how they run it anymore.
Thank you. I just, as Connie would say, I'd like it noted that I would request that that would be put into the procedures, that there be a process in place when a new commissioner joins, that there be some sort of a introduction to the process and something for them, presented to them that are like, these are the rules of procedure, this is where you access the information. Because you can blame it on staff, but it isn't being done. Maybe if it was in the rules of procedure, it'd get done.
And frankly, I requested it and never got anything. I have spoken to the mayor about this and still never received anything.
Right, by never received anything, what do you mean? You got this, right? You did get.
After a couple months, after
Yeah.
I met with Pete.
Okay.
But when I
What else?
when I was appointed to the Planning Commission, as I've, with other boards that I have served on, you get a book. There's information that they give you so you conduct yourself properly. You know how things are done. I received nothing. I wasn't sworn in. I showed up one day at my first meeting, and that was it. And I requested information from staff, never got it. I requested information from the mayor and never got it. But we need to deal with this issue because on these quasi-judicial matters, these are
Yeah.
serious issues, and we need to know how to conduct ourselves. And I mean, this is a nice segue, we'll get into it in a minute, but I provided you all with a memorandum talking about adding some procedures when we're dealing with public hearings, because it's absolutely critical that we conduct ourselves in a way that is legally defensible. And I gave you some examples. I don't think it's the right time to get into them here, but I'd like you to look at them, because we do have public hearings, and there are scripts and protocols that we must adhere to. And our rules of procedure don't go into any of those issues. I would like potentially a script and some public hearing information attached as part of our rules and procedures.
Excuse me, you never try to talk into the mic.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, maybe that's not in the membership section, but that seems.
No, it's not
we
in the,
should-
yeah, but.
It seems like we should talk.
Well, I guess it's kind of an organization. It's probably it's a separate section.
Yeah. So, I agree with Connie. Like, when I felt like for a long time, I was just kind of sitting here trying to figure out what was going on. Tried to do my own research as best I could, but didn't feel like I had a whole lot of support in learning how things go. So, again, I don't know if that's rules and procedure.
Well, it definitely is. Under conflict of interest and appearance of fairness, it goes somewhere around there. We need some protocols to follow and adhere to when we have public hearings.
No, yeah, I agree. I was talking about the same issue of sort of onboarding.
No, I've been in shock and awe for 15 years at the way the Planning Commission of the City of Woodland operates. Other jurisdictions have a well-established procedure, and their public hearings are extremely formal, and ours are not. And if this is the point in time to correct the behavior of the Planning Commission, then let's get this correct. And I think Connie's absolutely on board with the decorum, the attitude of the Planning Commission. It's time to revamp things and move into the late 20th century.
Can we move on to the next section then? Election of officers. Because these pages that Connie provided, it's certainly going to have to take some time to consider them.
Sure, yeah,
It's
let's
not-
just keep moving through.
It's not something that we can really address tonight.
Madam Chair, I only included them as a way to bring your attention to these issues, and, I didn't think we were going to
That's fine.
vote on this,
Yeah.
but I think it's important that we
That's fine.
take this into account.
Okay, election of officers. As I said, that I think the issue is, one issue is whether we want to do the elections in September as it has here, which, I don't know, just kind of seems to me like a rather odd month, but
Madam
it
Chair,
doesn't
what do you
matter.
recommend?
I don't know, January seems, just beginning of year seems more logical to me, but I'm not wedded to that.
Are our seats on a regular cycle?
A rotating basis? I believe so.
But is it on the same date in the year?
Or is it when you were appointed? I think
Yeah, it really depends on when you're appointed.
How many years from-
People leave, or people,
Yeah.
so there's appointments at certain times, and then your 2-year term starts at that time. I would say that it's common to do it in your first business meeting of the year in other jurisdictions, and then that sets the course for the next year. So, we used to do it year by year, but it says here 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
That's fine.
And, I have no objection to it being 1 year rather than 2 years.
Any thoughts about that?
So the suggestion is to move it to January potentially, and our discussion item right now is whether we want it for 1 year or 2 years. Do I understand that correctly?
Is everybody in agreement that January is for the elections?
I have no objection to that.
Works for me.
Okay. Anybody have feelings about 1-year term versus 2-year term for office, for chair and vice chair?
Sorry, Sharon, you get a year to learn and make mistakes, and the second year you get to be perfect.
Yeah, right.
So you like 2 years?
Dream on.
Is what you mean?
So you like the 2-year then?
Yeah, you can resign anytime you want to, but I think
Yeah.
2 years gives somebody time to get their stride in place. I don't mind 2 years.
That's true. You can resign anytime, and you can also be recalled anytime. So,
Yes, you can.
I presume 2 years seems fine.
Okay, anything else on that section? Okay, the duties. Any discussion on the duties of the chair and the vice chair? Okay, any discussion on the secretary? Okay. The operations and conducting business, the quorum, I struck off, including the chairperson.
So does that mean we have to have 4 now?
No.
No, it's 3 people, but the way this was written, the chair had to be there. So even if you had 4 people and the chair wasn't there, it sounded like you couldn't. conduct business.
Yeah, that is kind of ambiguous.
I agree with what you did. I think it was a,
It's very odd.
That looked good.
Okay. Motions and voting. Okay, what I did here is on the 5th line down, I changed the shall to may. So for motions may be accompanied by an oral statement rather than shall be. I mean, actually, this is not something we've been doing.
well, Madam Chair, this concerns me. I've looked at a number of other jurisdictions, and typically it's required to have an oral statement, and I think it's a good opportunity for the Planning Commission to hear from an applicant or...
No, that's not the way I take it, though, that from the applicant.
Yeah, this is about how to make the motion.
That's how to make the motion.
Oh,
That when
okay,
you
my
make the motion,
apologies.
yeah.
I think that the affirmative, in the way a motion is presented, makes sense, because you have an application or you have a matter before the Planning Commission, and an affirmative motion dies if it doesn't pass. A negative motion dies if it doesn't pass. I think there's a requirement for it to be an affirmative
Yeah, that's-
motion.
But aren't you you're talking about something else rather than what we're talking about right now? Yeah, there is
Talking
some-
about the way a motion is worded?
Just the shall, changing shall to
For
may.
matters requiring a public hearing, motions shall be accompanied by an oral statement or may be accompanied by an oral statement. The shall means that
Yeah,
always has to happen.
There was no change to the affirmative part.
I have a question on that, because usually when you make a motion, I move that we accept staff's plan as stated.
But the way this is worded, it makes it sound like you're supposed to explain why you're making the motion.
When we've probably just been discussing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does seem sort of
It's fairly
superfluous.
common for people just to make a motion. Like,
Yeah.
Make a motion without. I mean,
Okay.
generally, people will explain why they're making the motion they're making during
During the discussion, yeah.
Yeah, I like the change.
I'm okay with it.
Just, if you wouldn't mind for just a second while I check.
I believe it does say in here somewhere that motions would be made in the affirmative. I remember reading
It
that.
does, yeah, it's the
Yeah, motions
previous-
are to be made in the affirmative.
It's the previous sentence.
And I think the party that makes the move has the right to the floor first. And that may be why it's there.
How do you mean?
Did JJ leave? Who's the parliamentarian here? But I think the party that moves and... Yeah, the party that makes the motion...
True, city council.
Yeah, and I think the party that makes the second gets to speak second. So I don't know if that's the
that's-
purpose of this, but I
that's
think
after
that's
the-
Robert's Rules of Order.
So that's after the motion, but before the vote?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's in there.
I know it's in here, I'm just trying to find it.
Well,
But yeah, I guess my point is we're not
that...
trying to change
Yes,
that.
what you say is the way I think normally things happen, but is it not, is there something in these procedures that you think needs to be changed because of that?
Well, if you look at the bottom of the page where we're at, it says the chairperson shall vote in the event of a tie. A tie vote means the motion fails. A member may abstain from voting. Is that kind of what you're getting at, June?
I don't think so.
I'm
Okay.
getting into the person who makes a motion makes a statement.
So it may be accompanied by an oral statement. It just means you don't have to.
Rather than shall.
Yeah.
Right.
And the question is it required?
Is it required that you make an oral statement?
Yeah, I don't think it should be required. I like changing it to may.
And may means that you can do it
You
if you
sure
want.
can if you want.
How about if I check this out, and if it's not correct according to Robert's Rules of Order, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything else under motions and voting? that anybody wants to address? Okay, the conflict...
Well, just-
Okay, sorry.
Just one thing real quick. I think the last paragraph of that section is maybe pertinent here, where, not otherwise, yeah, forget it.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
Conflict
Change your
of
mind,
interest,
okay.
yeah.
Conflict of interest, an appearance of fairness. Okay, as you can see, I struck out the part about opinion.
And Madam Chair, that's where the information I provided comes in. I think we should take time to review these. I have other jurisdictional information if anybody's interested, but I think this is a very, very important part. And
So what you provided us with is has a lot to do with this section, you're saying?
It
Yeah,
does.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any changes you would like to see?
Probably we need to read this first before we,
Sure, but I might,
Yeah.
I'm interested in,
what,
yeah. We're here workshopping it. Do you have ideas for changes?
yes, my ideas are included
Okay.
in this
Well,
memorandum.
I just got that. Why don't you go ahead and,
I
Tell me.
think I would like you guys to review it. We're not going to take action on this. This is a serious issue. I can provide you additional information, but I think you have to really look at this information, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
maybe a trailer, an abstract, the synopsis? Preview?
Well,
Okay, I will. Here you go.
so one
most-
thing, it's two different statutes. It's kind of thrown into one.
what Connie gave us, you're saying? is-
No, the conflict of interest and appearance.
Oh, okay.
Appearance
Oh,
of
okay.
fairness. So, basically, public hearing, there's specific protocols to be used, and I've included them, tips for successful public hearing. I think you should read them, and we can discuss them later. There's also a hearing script, where you call the meeting to order, you actually address the appearance of fairness issues by you asking the members of the body if they have any interest in the property or application, if they own property within a certain distance, 300 feet, if they stand to gain or lose financial benefit as a result of the outcome of the hearing, whether they can hear and consider the application in a fair and objective manner, and if they have engaged in any ex parte communications with either proponents or opponents of the application. If so, they have to ask them to place on the record the substance of any communications so that interested parties have the opportunity at the hearing to rebut the communications. These, I want to see us conduct our public hearings in an acceptable way, and I have taken this from the MRSC of Washington. I think you need to review them. Although jurisdictions
So do you want to
kind of
add that language?
develop their own, but these are the key, some of the key factors. Brad, would you like to speak to that briefly?
In my experience, there is a disclosure statement that you need to read prior to every hearing. And in other places I've worked, I've prepared a script that the chair will read that actually does do this. You do need to do these things as part of your quasi-judicial hearing. You need to ask about ex parte communications and bias, and you need to appear fair in front of the people to give everybody a fair shot at giving good testimony and let them know what the ground rules are for your meetings. So I'm fully supportive of it, and we can certainly prepare. I think I gave examples to Connie earlier today because she was mentioning this. So we have, at the last place I went, we had a script for our quasi-judicial hearings. We had a script for our legislative hearings. We actually had rules that the public needed to abide by when they were giving testimony, so nobody was attacked, and they had to agree and sign to those, and the chair has every right to call them to order and ask them to leave if they're verbally attacking somebody or anything like that.
And oftentimes there are time limits, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
have 4 minutes for the opponent, 4 minutes for the
It's important when you have
proponent.
100 people in a room to talk about the same thing, and everybody's going to come up and talk about density and traffic, to have one person talk about density and traffic and ask the others, if your issue is the same, please do not repeat it, because it kills your time and their time, and it doesn't add anything to your consideration. So, yeah, I certainly think that it's something that you need to do if you haven't been doing it in the past.
And you think rules and procedures is a good spot to sort of?
I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly there. You can say that you should be abiding by these rules and procedures. I think that we can prepare the scripts and things that you should have in front of you anyways. In the same way, you should be making motions properly so that they're clear and people understand what your motion is and what you're doing. Because oftentimes, you'll talk during deliberations and everybody will have an idea of what that motion is. And if you can't clearly state it, then it needs to be read, and so we can give you scripts for those motions as well.
That'd be fantastic.
But I think it should be in the rules and procedures, because that way all the commissioners get to see what's going on, and we can participate and
So
make
all of
sure
these
everything's
scripts?
done.
All of these scripts? you
All
want?
of these scripts.
Okay. How is it? Okay. So that's going to, not that this is a problem, that's going to dramatically
It's going to be a lot more
increase the
pages.
size of our-
Well, if you go to the City of Centralia's website and you go to the Planning Commission, boom, there it is.
Sure, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I
And-
think there are advantages to having
Yeah.
a nice light.
If you go to
Rules and
Vancouver, you
procedures,
go to
but-
Clark County, you go to Cowlitz County, you want to know what to expect when you get there, you know.
And that's all I'm proposing, that we take action to be more consistent with other jurisdictions.
And for the benefit of the public.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Sure.
so we will need to consider that and come back to
Yeah.
that.
Would you say that that's mostly things to, like, add to this section rather than changing the existing language, or are there things you'd like to change there?
Well, the one thing that struck me is when we're talking about this, and then we are talking about operations and conducting business, and then we switch down to what's public hearing procedure, and there's sort of this idea that these things happen in this meeting, and then this is what happens in a public hearing, and I'm like, conflict of interest and appearance of fairness, those issues are judicial or quasi-judicial issues that don't necessarily happen in a workshop setting.
Exactly.
Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, you should always avoid appearance of fairness in any public meeting. Conflict of interest, you're allowed to have conflict, or I'd say bias, I call it bias. You're allowed to be biased on legislative issues. It's okay for you to talk to somebody and say, yeah, I don't like the idea of having medical marijuana places in town or something like that. So, yeah, I think that's fair. One recommendation I would make, as opposed to putting every script in there, would be to say, these are the components of the script that we want to see on every one of our meetings. Because these rules and procedures are for you, not the public. They're for you. You guys sign those. But you should have rules that the public should, and that was like our testimony sheets, always had the rules. And then the chair would read the script, which basically laid out the way that the hearing would be conducted that night.
I kind of like that, maybe, refer to these scripts rather than putting the whole thing in here. That way, if we ever want to change, maybe that script, we don't have to come back.
We don't
into
have to
this.
change the
It
procedure.
could be an addendum. I think the scripts are important. I think
no.
Woodland has,
I don't
Yeah, it
disagree.
could certainly be addendums.
I suggest that they be addendums.
All right. Seems reasonable to me.
Okay, so we will be reviewing that section again. Workshops? Any concerns in the workshop section? Okay, public hearing procedures.
That's the very issue that we're going to have to come back to and deal with on the script and procedure. So I would say that we should address that after reading the information that I provided.
Okay. Just want to make sure, I just want to go to the last page, Part F. Here's something else that didn't make sense. Planning Commission shall present its actions in unison to the City Council.
Yeah,
I don't really know what that even
I
means.
don't know what that means.
We actually do it for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We carry your recommendation. Like, for
Yes.
example, this evening, you recommend.
I do kind of like the mental image of us all trying to say the same thing at once.
Right.
To the planning, to the
And
city
do
council.
remember, when the majority speaks, that is the planning commission in unison, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
That's written.
Yeah.
There's no dissenting
And
opinion.
I see no reason to strike that, because although it's a staff, the staff's going to do that.
Right, yeah, it has no real bearing on it.
Yeah. This makes it sound like we all have to troop over to the city council meetings and,
Sort of like a Greek chorus.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's an interpretation, right, so.
I mean, you know, what you're saying, it's in unison, but this is not worded well.
I think it precludes members from the commission of filing a minority report to the city council. Is that what you understand?
I've never seen one of those. I don't think anybody would ever do that. I think that, I think it can be in there and you interpret it the way you want to, or it doesn't have to be in there. The next sentence basically says that your actions are transmitted to the city council in writing and includes the recommendations and findings of fact. That's what's most important going to the
Okay.
city council.
I would assume that if you had a dissent, you could go to the city council and
Speak as
and
a
speak
private
it,
citizen.
speak as, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the via negativa, so if it doesn't have to be there, then may as well take it out.
Okay, so we have homework to do to consider how we're going to,
So rather than leaving it to you, just a recommendation, we can take these minutes back and we can try and prepare a draft for you for your next meeting and send it out, and you guys can then discuss it again at that meeting.
I would
So
appreciate
moved.
that, so
Is there, I move that we adopt what Brad just suggested, that it be turned over to Brad
I
to...
don't think anybody will dissent on that.
Well, I made a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion is to have city staff
Make the amendments that you.
make the amendments,
I'm sorry. I just,
June did,
thank you. And then Paul.
Paula seconded it.
But I want it labeled, I would like to have the city provide us a draft for review.
Oh, sure.
I don't expect to accept everything prior to my review.
No, and, and we would hopefully have it a few days ahead so that we can
Actually,
consider it.
I'm only saying that we'll make these changes that you
Yes.
discussed tonight, and we can send it to you right away, right after they're made.
Yeah.
Aces.
It's just, as opposed to it coming from individuals who will just make these motions where you guys can continue your discussion at the next meeting.
I amend the motion. I amend the motion that we send this to staff to adopt the points discussed and to make changes as they see fit and return it to the Planning Commission for the next regular meeting
For review.
for review.
What do you mean, as they see fit?
He's the one smarter than us.
No, that's not true.
Well,
Do we need a second for that amended motion? I second that.
Do we even need a motion?
okay.
So let me see if I have this correct. Judy Jones made a motion, seconded by Connie Taylor, that the staff is to prepare a draft of the new procedural document incorporating changes discussed for commission review. Is that correct?
No. I made a motion to do what Brad said.
Yes.
Paula seconded it. Before the question was called, I amended the motion, and Connie seconded it.
Okay.
So it's up to the chair.
okay, so,
I actually don't think you need a motion on this.
I really don't
You
think
just-
so either.
You can just direct staff to make
Yeah,
recommendations. I mean, but you're not really taking any action on it, right?
Yes.
So I can go back.
I mean,
with the direction
that
we're-
that has been the procedure in the past, to direct staff to bring us more information about something, which is what this
Thanks,
is.
staff.
Well, there's a question on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. It's not optional.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Which one are, we got two motions on the floor.
I amended mine.
I suppose, the amended one, I think, is one that usually stands.
Okay. I'm in favor.
Opposed? Okay, so now we're going to have a update.
Thank you. Just real quick, I think you typically got a report, which was from the Development Review Committee report, and it's basically at the back of your packet, and it just kind of talks about some of the development activity that's going on and where it's at, and if you have questions on these specific applications, I encourage you to call me and ask me about them, because I don't know everything about them, and I'd have to do some research. So, as you know, Amanda's no longer with the city. We don't have a clerk, we don't have a building official. So we're right now working entirely off of consultants. Things are changing. Your city is really busy. There's a lot of development activity here. But I also have a second job that I work on school siting and things like that. So I am here, I'm committed to staying here on Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4, to help out as much as I can. We have closed the office at 4 and closed the office on Fridays to allow Janice to catch up on some of the filing stuff. Janice is fulfilling the role as the permit tech for all intents and purposes. She answers the phone, she takes care of all the building permits, she takes care of planning permits, sets up files, does a lot of the filing, I already said answers the phone, so Janice is the point person for the department right now, and so she needs a day to try and catch up, because this is not the job that she's been trained in. She got 1 day of training, and then Casey left, so 2 days. Oh, well, then you should be an expert. I mean. But, so I just wanted to give that update on the department, and we'll do the best that we can, meeting the public needs. Just know that it's going to take a little bit longer for things to get through.
Okay.
I had a question. I noticed on the application, I noticed on many of the applications that there's the date of submission, and then there's a notice of the application being deemed complete. And so then I noticed on the Woodland Heights rezone,
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 15 of 29, which I think really they're referring to Excel files, but, so it's basically the second page of the document. So I don't see where that was ever deemed as a complete application. Is that an oversight in the record? Or was it never deemed a complete application? I know that was a question.
Sir, I wish I could answer that
Okay.
question for you. I can't. I will tell you that, quite frankly, the record keeping in the past has been horrid, and there should be much more structure to it.
Excuse me, so it has been what?
Horrid.
Okay.
I have problems finding things. Janice has problems finding things. And so we're trying to correct that. So to get to, I guess, this whole thing about the amended agenda and the cancellation of that, I came in and I was under the assumption, because there was nobody here to tell me otherwise, that there was a public hearing on this matter on the rezone in July. And I had heard that there had been public testimony and given from the applicant, he said he had been before you guys on a couple of occasions. So I had assumed that that was a continued public hearing, and so that's why you see that it's not a continued now, I mean, that we had to amend that, not knowing that. I will advise you all, next time we do meet on this, on that hearing, that you do have to declare that that meeting was ex parte communication.
Yeah, it
Because you
was.
spoke to both proponents and opponents of the project. And you will have to generally talk about the context of what you took in at that meeting, and then whether or not that predisposed you to a certain position, whether you have bias now or not. If you do, then you need to recuse yourself. And so I will advise all of that once we get to that point. But that goes again to the record keeping. So this went to the DRC. And the DRC is your public works, who is in transition. You have a new public works director. You have a consulting city engineer, so he attends. You have a new fire marshal for the area who attends those meetings. And then you had an interim public works director, Mike Karnofsky, who was attending that. So the only person at those meetings that had longevity was Jody from Public Works. So I can just say that we will get better as things go along. I'm making a list for the person that comes on next to recommendations, changes that they might want to make, and hopefully your department will get better. But they need your support. They need the public support too.
So you don't know?
I don't know whether or not it's been deemed complete.
Okay.
I have to assume that it's been deemed complete, because if it's not, you have another problem called the 120-day rule, where they can assert themselves in circuit court. You may not think the application's complete. I've conveyed this to Commissioner Taylor, and maybe, I'm not sure, I'll have to do research on the file to see if Amanda thought it was complete or not. But what I can tell you is there's not a lot of criteria in your code for comprehensive plan text amendment, or comprehensive plan map amendments and zone map amendments. So if all they have to rely on is your goals and policies of your comp plan, and they feel like they've addressed them, they can say, this is what I'm submitting.
Mine was just a question of, it was different than the other things in the report.
Sure. And I just filled in where I could on things that I've worked on.
It was great. It was nice to get the DRC report in that format.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Are we ready to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting. I did.
Sorry.
Seconded.
Okay,
Seems to
seconded
be
by
my
Paula,
job.
moved by Connie, seconded by Paula to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
It's the community website building, just so that City Hall's not closed.
Oh.
And there's somebody there, and Janice is there, but she's busy, I'm asking her not necessarily. We have priorities in that department.
Well, if it just sits there and nobody seconds it, and it dies. Yeah. And maybe here for the rest of the night.